Hey, what's going on, y'all? Don't know if you guys saw it or not, but there's this video that came out pretty recently by this Japanese fishing YouTuber called Hiro-sans TV, this guy right here. And basically what he came up with was something called the Inurig, and it is a new way to rig soft plastics, typically something long like a worm or a Senko, but I know you can also do it with like lizards or creature baits. Basically what you do is you take some sort of a plastic tube and you put it through the bait. That way when you pull the line, it actually pulls the tail of the bait first, and it curls the worm up, or like scrunches the worm up, so more like an actual worm would behave, as compared to something you see like a wacky rig or a Nico rig where it just kind of bows right in the middle in a U shape. But this actually curls the worm up, and it's really cool. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to rig it, and I'm also going to show you an improvement I made where I added a second hook onto the back of the rig, which is going to help you catch more of those finicky fish that just nip at the end of your bait. If this video helps y'all out at all, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. And without further ado, let's get into the Inurig. So what you're going to need some sort of worm. You could use really anything for this. You could do this with Senkos, trick worms, Magnum trick worms, really anything you want. I'm just using a standard Zoom trick worm, but that depends on you. You're obviously going to need the line coming off your rod. You're going to need some sort of tubing for this. I am just using speaker wire. I believe this is 14 gauge, and then I'm just removing the copper wire from the center. And then you're also going to need some sort of nail weight, 2 hooks, and if you're doing the tube method like I am, you're going to need a pair of pliers. So first thing you're going to want to do is actually get your tube. So the way I'm doing it, we're just going to use some speaker wire. All I'm going to do really is just strip off a tiny bit of tubing from the end of the wire. So you can see I kind of made a little crimp all around it. Just going to pinch it with my fingernails and pull that off. So now I've got a little bit of exposed wire. So now I probably only need about 1 total inch of tubing for all 3 segments, but I'm just going to cut off about 2 inches here. Put that to the side. So now with this tubing, to actually get the tube empty in the center, I'm just going to pull the wire like that and just get it all out of the plastic rubber shielding. Okay, so now I've got my empty tube, which is actually going to go inside the worm. So we'll use that in a minute. Next, we're actually going to take out the worm that we're using. So it's important, guys, when you're putting this tube through the worm, say we want the worm going like this, we want to have our tube going so that when it's about halfway pulled, the tube is in a straight line. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to take one of my finesse hooks here. So I'm going to push this hook through about right here. And check that out. See how that's diagonal through the worm? So that's the first section. So since my first section is going down through like that, my middle section I'm going to want to put up from the front, going up towards the back of the worm, so just like this. See how that's in there? And then the last one, going to be the opposite of that. So at the back of the worm here, in the thick part, I'm just going to go from top down, straight like that. So now I have all the holes through my worm, so now I need to actually put the tube through them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the tube and I'm just going to push it through the holes I've already made. So there's the first one. This is kind of tricky. It's a little difficult, but it's not too bad. I'm just going to put it to where the end of the tube is basically flush with the end of the worm. You can see that. And then on this outside here, I'm just going to clip it off, right flush with the worm. So now this is what it looks like with that front piece kind of diagonal. Doesn't really matter that it's sticking out just a little bit. That's okay. And you can see, I can see right through it at that angle, which is good. All right, so now we're going to do the middle one with the same piece of tube. Push it through that hole we've already made with the hook. So I'm just going to clip this guy off right flush with the edge of the worm. Also going to trim this one a little bit too, so it's not sticking out like that. All right, so that one's looking good. I can see daylight through there. All right, now let's do the last one. Push our plastic tubing through that last hole we made with the hook. Get it flush, all right? We're gonna cut it off. All right, so the worm is now done. We have all 3 of our little plastic sections through the worm. And you can see when I bend this like that, those 3 little tubes we put through there are gonna form a straight line. And that's what you want. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our nail weight and we're gonna put it in the butt of the worm. To make this easier on myself, I'm just gonna pinch off the tiny last bit of this worm here to give myself a little flatter surface to work with. And I'm not going to be putting the entire nail weight in here because this is a finesse worm, so I don't want it sinking that much. I'm just going to do half the nail weight like that. And then I'm going to pinch the other half off. So for the next part, you're going to take your first finesse hook, and this is the line coming off your rod. So I'm going to put the line through like so. And then I'm going to actually put it through this first little tube here. So now you can see when the hook is tight against the worm, it's going to look like that. Next one I'm going to put through as well. And then of course the last one. All right, see that? That's what you want right there. All right, so then this is where the big change is that I was talking about. So what the guy in the original video did is he just took a split ring and he tied it to the line right here. And that's how he held it on. But what I'm going to do, or what I'm going to recommend, is I'm going to tie a hook right here. That way we actually have 2 hooks on this rig instead of 1. So I'm going to give myself enough line, and then I'm just going to tie this on. All right, guys, for the knot to tie the hook onto the bottom, I'm just going to be using an improved clinch. And boom, the improved clinch is done. So it's a pretty easy knot you can tie to the shank of a hook, so that's why I'm using it. The important thing is just cinch it down right in the center. And I'm going to clip my tag end off. So now that the hook we're actually tied to is in place, what I'm going to do with the top hook here is I'm going to find where it would sit on the worm. And I'm just going to go like this. Hook it under there a little bit. Kind of position it so where the hook eyelet is right over the little plastic tube. All right, so this is basically a rig. The only thing we need still to do is to put this hook eyelet through the worm a little bit. So all I'm going to do is first I'm going to find a spot where the eyelet would go, so right about there. And then I'm going to take the point of the hook, just make myself a little area there that I can push my eyelet through, just like that. This is fully rigged up, guys. This is ready to go. And you see when you pull the line, it's going to collapse the worm together, but then when it's just in the water, it's going to sink just like this. It's going to sink just like vertically like a Nico rig would. So yeah, that's going to do it for the Inurig video. I really hope this helps y'all out and you guys catch some more fish with this. Do me a favor and go subscribe to the original guy who made this. That's a really cool innovation he came up with. Big shout out to that guy, Hirosans TV. Also, I do have fishing videos of me coming out where I'm actually using the Inurig in the next week or so. So stick around for those. They're going to be really good. And yeah, that's all for this one, guys. So thank you for watching. I appreciate the support. I'll see y'all in the next one.